Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devin Saraswatin Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamasloke Bhaktin Bhavadir Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Welcome all the devotees for the morning Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. Today we are going to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, text number 39. The canto name is The Cosmic Manifestation and the chapter name is The Cause of All Causes. Please repeat the sloka behind me. Grīvāyāṁ janalokasya
grīvāyām janalokasya
tapolokaḥ stana-dvayāt
tapolokaḥ stana-dvayāt
mūrdhabhiḥ satyalokastu
mūrdhabhiḥ satyalokastu
brahmalokaḥ sanātanaḥ.
brahmalokaḥ sanātanaḥ.
Word by word meaning, please repeat behind me. Grīvāyāṁ,
grīvāyām
up to the neck.
after
Janalokaḥ,
janalokaḥ,
the Janaloka planetary system.
the janaloka planetary system,
Asya,
asya
of him. Tapolokaḥ, the Tapoloka planetary system. Stana-dvayāt, beginning from the breast. Mūrdhabhiḥ, by the head. Satyalokaḥ, the Satyaloka planetary system. Two, but brahmalokaḥ, the spiritual planets. Sanātanaḥ, eternal. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanavanda A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada. Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. Translation: from the forefront of the chest up to the neck of the universal form of the Lord are situated the planetary systems named Janaloka and Tapoloka. Whereas Satyaloka, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, however, are eternal. Purport. Many times in these pages, we have discussed the spiritual planets situated beyond the material sky. And the description is corroborated in this verse. The word sanātana is significant. This verse, this very idea of eternity is expressed in the Bhagavad-gītā 8.20, where it is said that beyond the material creation is the spiritual sky, where everything is eternal. Sometimes Satyaloka, the planet in which Brahmā resides, is also called Brahmaloka. But the Brahmaloka mentioned here is not the same as the Satyaloka planetary system. This Brahmaloka is eternal, whereas the Satyaloka planetary system is not eternal. And to distinguish between the two, the adjective sanātana has been used in this case. According to Śrīla Jīva Gosvāmī, this Brahmaloka is the loka or abode of Brahman or the Supreme Lord. In the spiritual sky, all the planets are as good as the Lord himself. The Lord is all spirit, and his name, fame, glories, qualities, pastimes, etc. are all non-different from him because he is absolute. As such, the planets in the kingdom of God are all also non-different from him. In those planets, there is no difference between the body and the soul. nor is there any influence of time as we experience it in the material world. And in addition to there being no influence of time, the planet is Brahmaloka due to being spiritual or never annihilated. All variegatedness in the spiritual planet is also one with the Lord. And therefore, the Vedic aphorism, Ekam evat vidyam, is fully realized in that sanātana atmosphere of spiritual variegatedness. This material world is only a shadow, phantasmagoria of the spiritual kingdom of the Lord. And because it is a shadow, it is never eternal. The variegatedness in the material world of duality, spirit and matter, cannot be compared to that of the spiritual world. Because of a poor fund of knowledge, less intelligent persons sometimes mistake the condition of the shadow world to be equivalent to those of the spiritual world. And thus, they mistake the Lord and his pastimes in the material world to be one with the conditioned souls and their activities. The Lord condemns such less intelligent person in Bhagavad-gītā 9.11. 9.11. Avajanandi mamuda manushim tanum asritam parambhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Whenever the Lord incarnates, he does so in his full internal potency, Atma Maya, and a less intelligent person mistake him to be one of the material creations. Śrīla Swami, therefore, rightly comments on this verse, says that the Brahmaloka mentioned here is Vaikuntha Loka, the kingdom of God, which is sanātana or eternal, and is therefore not exactly like the material creations described above. The Virat universal form of the Lord is an imagination for the material world. It has nothing to do with the spiritual world or the kingdom of the Lord. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavad Pashasha Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today's sloka, again the discussion between Brahmaji and Narada. So the Brahma is explaining about the material creation, the cosmic manifestation. And in this today's sloka, he is talking about the upper planetary system. So in that, he was explaining that from the chest of the Lord to up to the neck of the universal form, so there are Janaloka and Tapolokas there. And Satyaloka, which is in the head of the Lord. It is a topmost planetary system. It is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planet, however, are eternal. So this is we need to understand this sloka properly, because here it is said that Brahmaloka sanātanaḥ. So we will mistakenly understand that Brahmaloka in the sense where Brahma resides. Because sometimes, say Brahma resides in Satyaloka. Sometimes we will call that to understand fully, to give the explanation when there is a discussion happen. That time we will use the word Brahmaloka for Satyaloka also. Brahmaloka, why we are calling Satyaloka as a Brahmaloka? Since Brahma resides there, the Satyaloka we will call as a Brahmaloka. But there is a different Brahmaloka which is mentioned over here, which is the spiritual world. So the universe, still the Satyaloka are there within the universe. And this whatever we discussed, this Janaloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, all these loka are there within the universal form of the Lord. But this Brahmaloka, which is sanātanaḥ, sanātanaḥ means which is eternal. So that's why our religion also, we are calling the religion as a sanātana dharma. So we're not calling, we should not call ourselves as the Hindus. Yes, Hindus is the name provided by the people who are all invade our Bharatavarsha. But the original name of our dharma is Sanatana Dharma. So that's the reason we have to always use the word Sanatana. So Sanatana means which is eternal. It is eternal means always it will be there. There is no end for that. So that's why our religion is called Sanatana Dharma. And it is Brahmaloka is a Sanatana. So how the religion is eternal, is always will be there. It was there in the past, it is there now, and it will be there in the future. And the Brahmaloka also, Brahmaloka here mentioned as Brahman, where the Brahman resides. Brahman here represent the Supreme Lord. Where the Supreme Lord is reside? The Supreme Lord resides in the Brahmaloka, which is the spiritual world. So here, so there's a difference we need to understand. So the material world is different and the spiritual world is different. And usually we heard that the material world is a shadow of the spiritual world. So suppose we are in front of the light, if you are showing your hand, you will see the shadow in the opposite side. The shadow, you can see the shadow of your hand. When the light off, the shadow won't be there, but your hands will be remain there. Your shadow may not be there because of the light, you was able to see a shadow there in the opposite direction, opposite side. But when there is no light, your hand will be there, but there is no shadows. So because the shadow is a temporary one. Based on the light, it will come and it will go. Similarly, this material world, it is represented as a shadow of the spiritual world. The spiritual world, it is always remains. There is no annihilation for the spiritual world. But the shadow of the material world, it will get created and it will get annihilated. So that is the reason the material world is called as a shadow of a spiritual world. So and also the spiritual world, all the living entities are spirit soul only. And in the material world, there is a duality, spirit and matter, it is mixed. So if you take our body is a matter, is made up of the 5 basic elements. And in that, when the person is alive, there is a soul inside of that. But the soul is spiritual. The soul is spiritual and our body is matter. Matter is, this is the material. So material and spiritual combination, we are all material and spiritual combination. So similar way, our souls are eternal. So whatever our souls, since we are thinking this body is destroyed, means the soul is come out from this body, that means we died. So it is death is only for this matter. But spirit, it is always, our spirit is also eternal. Yes, our means our soul is made up of the spiritual. There's no material things there. That is the only spirit is there. Spiritual, that is spiritual. Our soul is also spiritual. That's why our soul, we are calling ourselves as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Since we are contaminated with this material, touching this material world, in order to act here, Lord provided the suitable body through material way. And since we wanted to lord it over this material world again and again, until unless our lording it over or enjoying propensity, sense gratification propensity is over, we will get the material body again and again. Lord will give the material body according to our, whatever we are thinking, whatever we wanted to, what is our desire. Based on that, Lord will give the material body again and again. So this is what Lord is also telling in the 8th chapter and 5th sloka. Anda kalecha mam evam swaran mutta galevaram. So what Lord is saying that at the end of the life, the person who thinks about me alone, that is the word he was using, me alone. He is not taking any other Lord's names. He's talking about the person who is thinking about me alone will get my abode, will get my nature. Like that, Krishna is saying in the 8.5. So that means the me alone, that is the only thing. For that, to understand that only we are here in this material world. So Lord is eternal and we are also eternal. But since we are conditioned to enjoy this enjoying propensity, we are getting into the conditional body. So until unless the enjoying propensity is there with us, we will get the body again and again, material body again and again, again and again, again and again. But when we realize that the Lord is the ultimate goal of our life, our position is to serve the Lord, and this material world is temporary and it is not for, this is not our permanent place. So when the soul realizes that, understand that, that is a maturity. So when the soul, spiritual, practice for that to get out of this material world, then at the time of the death, if you are able to realize, remember the Supreme Lord alone, then Lord is saying that he will attain my nature. So we will attain the spiritual form. We will get into the spirituality and spiritual world, and we are never going to come back to this material world. So this is what Lord is talking about. There is a differentiating the material world and spiritual world. And in the 8 point, Bhagavad-gītā 8.20, Lord is talking about this, again, this material and spiritual worlds. Parastamas tasmatu bhavanyo avyakta sanātanaḥ yasya sarveshu bhuteshu nasyatsu na vinasyati. So vinasyati, so that is the word is annihilation. Vinasyati in sanātana, in Sanskrit, the vinasyati means annihilated. Annihilated means it is getting destroyed. So the translation is, yet there is another unmanifested nature, which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remain as it is. So here the Lord is talking about the spiritual world. So till that the previous loka, he was talking about this material world, and it was getting created and getting annihilated. But there is a part which is supreme, which is the spiritual part, spiritual world, which is not made up of matter. That part, it is never getting annihilated, and it is remain as it is. Whenever there is annihilation happening in this material world, but the spiritual world, there is no annihilation. It always remains as it is. That's what Lord is giving the clue to us. So that means the spiritual world is eternal and the material world is temporary. And this Virat Rupa in this sloka, so Prabhupada is explaining that Virat Rupa, it is our imaginary. So it is just whatever to understand. This is from the chest of the Lord to neck. It is the tapoloka and janaloka, and his head is satyaloka. That means to understand that. So from bottom to top, to understand, so that it is compared with the universal form of the Lord. But that is the imaginary. That's what Prabhupada is explaining in this. So that form, universal form is imaginary and it is temporary also. So that's what Krishna showed when Arjuna asked. That time he showed the universal form. The universal form is no other temple in this material world. No temple we will worship this universal form. Why we are not worshipping the universal form? Because that is a temporary. That is not our goal. Because we are already there in the material world. So we are there then inside of the universal form of the Lord only. So it is not necessary to worship the universal form of the Lord, because our ultimate goal is to reach the supreme abode, where the Lord originally where he resides. So in order to reach there, we are trying. So that is the reason we are always worshipping to get the inspiration and that is to keep Lord, to reach the spiritual world is our goal. That is the reason we are not worshipping the universal form of the Lord. And again, this Prabhupada, he was talking about the Bhagavad-gītā 9.11. So the 9.11 here, he talking about a person, people who are all not having the believer of the Supreme Lord. So the people, the common people, they are thinking that the Supreme Lord also, it is one of such like among us. He is also living among us. He is also having the same body like us, he is also same. All the activities are same like us. Because they unable to imagine, they unable to have the capacity to understand the Supreme Lord. For them, what Krishna is saying that avajananti ma mūda. So they are the fools. He was saying that. So that's it. Avajananti ma mūda manusim tanum ashritam parambhavam ajananto mamabhuta maheshwaram. So Krishna here is talking about those people who was thinking that Krishna is, because Krishna is appeared in this material 5,000 years back. So still, till now, some part of the people, they are thinking that he's Krishna born, he struggled a lot. Like that, people are talking. But even though the Supreme Lord appeared in this material world, but he is not contaminated by this material world. He is always a Supreme Lord only. Even though he is appeared in this material world, he walked in this material world. He stayed along with the Gopa and Gopis, but still his position is remain here as a Supreme. But what Krishna is saying that fools deride me when I descend in the human form. So when Lord descend in the human form, the fools are deriding the Lord. Why? How they are doing? They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that being. So they did not know about his transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. Because even though the Lord is like having like us, he was playing in the the forest of Vrindavan like a covered boy. Even though he was having he's a small boy, he's acting as a small boy, he was doing all the mischievous activities, but his position remains the transcendental position. He is the transcendental Supreme Lord alone. So we cannot deride that Supreme Lord as a human being. He's not a human being. Even though he is appeared in his material world, his body and his spirit, there is no difference between the body and the soul of the Supreme Lord. Yes, he is always Satchitananda Vigraha, even he's appeared in his material world. But for us, our soul is Satchitananda Vigraha, but our body is made up of matter. So there is a difference between the Lord's body and our body. So that we can understand, when we understand the scriptures through the acharyas, then only we can understand. And today's sloga also, it is Prabhupada is explaining that people often mistakenly they will understand that here the word Brahmaloka sanātanaḥ. Brahmaloka means immediately they will remember that Brahma, where Brahma resides, that is the Brahmaloka, so that is sanātanaḥ. So here the Jīva Gosvāmī is giving the explanation that wherever the Brahma resides, that is Satyaloka. Sometimes we'll, for the namesake, we'll call that as a Brahmaloka. Yes, sometimes we will call our house also. So this is the house. Wherever we are residing, this is the house. Sometimes we are pointing that this is Tibat Prabhu's house, this is Anjaneya Prabhu's house. But house is there. But sometimes we will call this as a Tibat Prabhu's Anjaneya Prabhu's house. So the person, Anjaneya Prabhu friend, they will call that as the Anjaneya Prabhu's house. Somebody, the Lavanya Mataji's friend, they will say that this is Lavanya's house. And Datri's friends, they will say that it's a Datri house. So the same house, it will be represented by multiple people in the multiple names. How they are giving the name, the house, it's a different name to pointing out. The similar way, the Satyaloka, it is pointed out is a Brahmaloka sometimes. It is just for a namesake, how to identify that Brahma is residing there. But whatever this sloka is mentioning Brahmaloka, which is sanātana. Sanātana means it's never be in the material world. Then this Brahmaloka, it is Brahma means this Brahma, it is representing the Brahman. That is the way we need to understand. So this is the way the word jugglery will be there in the slokas. Because it is because in Sanskrit it's a kind of it's a very wonderful language. One word, it has the many meanings. Sometimes it may have the 16 meanings. A single word, it has up to 16 meanings. So only the person who is the acharya, only they can interpret the word properly. Other person cannot interpret this wordings properly. Other person, directly they'll change the meaning. They will convert that the Sanskrit. They will convert that whatever the meaning they know. The regular the person who is for money, the philosophers, philosophers, what they will do, they will just work for the money. So they know Sanskrit. So they will say that I will just translate this into the into the native language, then I will explain to you. So this is the way they used to explain. So they will mistakenly, they will say that Brahmaloka is sanātanaḥ by translating this. They won't go through the translation because they will think that whatever the meaning, I know the Sanskrit, so I can translate this. So they will, by mistake, they will say Brahmaloka is sanātanaḥ, which is where Brahman resides. But what Brahma resides. So, but here this Brahmaloka it is mentioning that it is talking about the Brahman, where Lord resides. So Lord resides means that is a spiritual world, that is never annihilated world. So the today's sloka, we discussed about the Janaloka, Tapoloka, and Satyaloka. So these three are within this material universe, which is the topmost planetary system. Satyaloka is a topmost planetary system, which is compared with the Lord's head, and the Janaloka and the Tapoloka, which is above the chest and the neck of the Supreme Lord body. It is illustrated in that way. And the Brahmaloka, which is sanātana, which is beyond this material world, which is where the Lord resides. That is a Brahmaloka, not the Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is where Brahma resides, we'll get Brahmaloka. But here, what is mentioning is the Brahmaloka, where the Supreme Lord resides. So that is the way we need to understand from the Acharya's commentary. So here Prabhupada clearly he mentioned, and Prabhupada is not saying himself. Yes, he's also he's coming out of this disciplinary succession, and he is also not whimsically. He's not saying through his opinion. He's referring the previous Acharya, Śrīla Jīva Gosvāmī's opinion. So this is the way we need to understand. We need to get the knowledge about this meaning of the slokas. So even though you know the Sanskrit, you should not try to interpret the words directly. So this is the lesson we need to learn from this purport also. That is the overall purport. It is Prabhupada explained. He explained in that way that he is referring from the previous Acharya, Śrīla Jīva Gosvāmī is telling like that. So we have to understand like that. So this is the way the Guru Parambara is understandable. So we are also part of the Guru Parambara. So whenever there is such conversation, some such the words where jugglery words is coming, then we should not take our whatever we understanding and that meaning. We should refer what the previous acharyas are saying. We need to refer that. Then we need to understand from that. Because we should not think that I know Sanskrit, so let me directly I can understand. In that way, that is not the word, that is not the mood of the devotee of the Lord. So the overall following the bona fide sampradaya, they will always refer the previous acharya's commentary and understand. From that, they will understand. So here also, it is not only Prabhupada and Jiva Goswāmī, they are following the previous acharya. The very who is talking this Bhagavatam, so originally spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. In that, even Sukadeva Goswami also not directly he was telling that. He was telling, when Parikshit Maharaj asking about this world, he was referring this Brahma and Narada, what they are discussing. So that is the mood of our parampara. So our parampara mood is always we will refer the previous acharyas, what they discussed, what they referred. From that we will take, because from that only we can understand that, because they are following their previous predecessors, their acharya, their previous gurus and acharyas, so that there won't be any mistake in the understanding. It will be a perfect knowledge we will get. That is the reason all of our parampara, we are following the disciplinary succession. What our previous acharya is saying, we will referring the same thing. So we need to understand the sloka. So today's understanding is, from this sloka, we can understand that janaloka, tapoloka, satyaloka, they are in the material world, which will be annihilated when the pralaya happens. When the annihilations happen, satyaloka also will get annihilated. But the spiritual world is eternal. So it is never getting annihilated. And we need to follow the authorities or who are the predecessors, previous acharyas, whatever they are explained, we have to understand through their point of view, so that we can understand, we'll get the perfect knowledge about the material and spiritual world. And any spiritual knowledge we need to understand through the viewpoint of our previous acharyas, bona fide previous acharyas, previous gurus, so that the knowledge will be perfect. Hare Krishna. Randraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.